Hey guys, in this lesson we are going to be working on finding the volume of different prisms. When we talk about volume, we just mean the space that that figure occupies. So think 3-dimension, so not a flat area like the area of your yard or something. We're talking about the volume, like the amount of space that's in your room right now, or the volume in, I don't know, a hot dog or something, but it's measured in cubic units because we have 3 dimensions, so maybe cubic centimeters, cubic inches, cubic meters, cubic feet, whatever. But it's always cubic for that reason, 3 dimensions. So we're going to talk specifically about prisms, but you'll notice if you kind of just glance through these notes, almost all of them are some type of rectangular prism. Now, we will get a bit of variety, but we're going to stick with the basic ones for the summer school course. So to talk about what volume is, again, you're filling up not just the bottom of the shape, but you're filling the bottom layer and the middle layers until all the way up to the top, which kind of gets at the formula, the basic formula for the volume of a sphere. So it's 5 units long. I said sphere, I mean prism. This one is 5 units long, and it is 3 units deep and 4 units tall. And if I'm going to fill it up with little cubes that are 1 by 1 by 1, I want to know how many of them fit in this box. So if you look at the bottom layer, there's 1 cube here, 2, 3, 4, 5, which makes sense. This is 5 units here. And then I'm going to keep counting. Here's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those cubes. There's 1 underneath this one, so 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Which shouldn't be a surprise because I already knew it was 5 long and 3 deep, and 5 times 3 is 15. But that's only if I fill the bottom layer. I'm going to fill it all the way up to the top. So you could picture, if I erase all those little marks counting, you can picture I have 15 on the bottom. Well, I can stack another 15 here for a second layer. So 15 plus 15 is 30. And then there'd be, so this is the second layer, there'd be a third layer, there'd be a fourth layer. There'd be 4 layers that each have 15 cubes in it. 15 times 4 is 60. 60 cubes would fit inside that box, the original box. So the volume of that box is considered 60 cubic units. That's what we mean when we talk about volume and the space it fills up. How many of these 1 by 1 by 1 cubes would fit in this space? When we talk about any prism, we're talking about the formula V equals capital B times H. And I use capital B because it means it's the area of the base. This is the 5 times 3 I started with when I got 15 units on the bottom. Technically square units. I found the area of the bottom. And then we took that times 4 to get the 60. Because we are doing area of the base times the height. How many of those layers are you going to be stacking up? So for number 1, the volume of this prism, I'm thinking area of the base times the height. I'm going to think of this rectangular base here. The area of that base would be length times width. And then I'll multiply it by the height. So this becomes the formula you're used to using for volume, length times width times height. Usually when I ask my students what is volume, I'll have a bunch of people tell me it is length times width times height. This is why. Area of the base is length times width, so I'm going to take that 5 inches times an 8 inches. So this is like the flat bottom layer. And then I'm going to say I'm going to have 3 of those layers. That's how high it's going up. So if I do 5 times 8 times 3, I get 120, I believe. And again, cubic units. Which also, if you kind of go back to what we did with some variable work, anytime you take the same thing and multiply it by itself 3 times, you get something to the 3rd power. That's another reason you could think of it as being cubic inches, inches to the 3rd, because we just took inches times inches times inches. So this next one, I'm going to find the volume. So I'm going to think area of the base times the height. There's a couple ways you can think about this. It's still a rectangular prism though, so I'm still going to be thinking length times width times height. If you get stuck on the idea of the base, this could be a little tricky because this rectangular base I know is 5 miles deep, but it's not marked here for its length. But keep in mind, this is like if you picture an Amazon box that got delivered to you. It's the same here, it's the same here, it's the same here. So it's 8 miles. So I'm going to do 5 miles times 8 miles for, I'm going to use parentheses. I don't really know why, but I am for my multiplication. So that's the area of the bottom layer, and I'm saying I would have 6 miles, 6 of these layers up. So I'm going to take 5 times 8 times 6, which I believe is 240 square miles, cubic miles. I almost said square miles. Cubic units for volume. Now, you are welcome to always just think, oh, it's a rectangular prism. Let's think length times width times height, and let's find those 3 numbers. Those 3 numbers are a 5, a 6, and an 8. Clearly, you're going to get the same answer, but it's really helpful to keep in mind it's area of the base times height for reasons like this guy down here where I'm changing the shape of the base.